Hello, I am Denise Pratt. Welcome to our Table Talk Unplugged. It's a show produced by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training. Here we discuss topics that are key to the advancement of our education sector. Today, we'll be talking about meeting the needs of our special needs students, especially those who are at our pre-primary level. Now, we know that the early years of a child's life can lay the foundation for a successful academic career. So today, we will be focusing on how educators and specialists work together to assess our students and address any possible delays in their development. The overall result really is to ensure that each student can thrive and reach their full potential. Today, we'll be speaking with 3 education professionals. Our first guest is Education Officer, Mrs. Christine Cunningham. Mrs. Cunningham, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. And today we are talking about our preschoolers who are dealing with special needs issues and making sure that we can address any issues that they may have. I want to ask you, first of all, tell us a bit about the unit that you work in at the Ministry of Education.
Well, I'm a part of the Special Services Division under Special Education. So we deal with all of the units within the school, the public system, from pre-primary to high school. In that area, we have like 2 preschools, 8 junior high schools, 16 primary, and 4 senior schools that have special education units present at their school.
Well, that's good to know. Could you share with us, what is the process currently to get a student into one of the special education preschool units?
Well, all of the students in trying to get into the unit must first have a psychological or psychoeducational assessment. So an assessment is done through the Ministry of Education for school-age students. If the students are in preschool, like what we're talking about now, most of them have to bring in a private assessment that's done by their pediatrician or their doctor.
If someone is thinking that maybe an assessment is needed, they're not certain, but they're noticing some things, about a preschooler. How really difficult is it, or how easy rather, is it to get an assessment? Is it that I have to go to a private provider?
Unfortunately, yes. Unless, well, there is the pediatric corridor at Princess Margaret Hospital. The wait list is long. So it takes a while to get an assessment there, but that is available through the government. But if you want something like right away, yes, you have to go private.
Well, yes, I understand that. That's the nature of the medical profession at this time. But what sort of services can your unit provide to our teachers to help them?
To address the students?
To address students with special needs.
Well, one of the things that we try to provide is training. We have professional development programs that go on sometimes throughout the year. With the teachers that are in the program now, we try to do a monthly meeting. And at that monthly meeting, we offer a certain type of training. We get public-private partnership. We bring in specialists that'll give us some type of training that we can provide for teachers to help them with this need that is out there.
Very good. Now, tell me something a bit about how can, as a parent, and I feel that my child needs some additional assistance in that area. What currently is the policy for me to get special needs assistance for my child? What is the Ministry of Education policy?
Well, like I said earlier, if the child is under school age, it has to be done privately. We don't offer anything private for under school age. But once the child is at school age, we do have the school psychological department at the Ministry of Education that provides the assessment needed. Parents would have to be referred to the school psych system. If the child is in school, first primary school, the guidance counselor is normally the one that makes the referral for the school psych assessment. So once that is done, then they're able to address the need of that student and provide the assessment that is needed.
Okay. In your experience, and you've been with the ministry for a number of years, dealing with preschoolers, what is some of the advice perhaps that you could tell parents who may think that their child may have some special needs challenges?
The earlier you can get an assessment done, the better. I know sometimes money is always a factor. Money is always a factor. So if you can't get the assessment done right away, try to connect with organizations that address such needs. I'm going to put in a plug. REACH, that is one of the biggest organization. Then we have the Down syndrome. Eyes Wide Open, I think that's the name of it. But those are programs with other parents of like mind, other parents that have the same needs, that work together to help each other, will give you that support that you need. Yeah,
so, in other words, this public-private partnership is really necessary.
Very much necessary. The government tries to do the best that they can with what they have. And we all expect more, but we have to deal with what we have. And partnership, public-private partnership is key to helping.
Well, you know, the saying is, it takes a village.
Yes.
To raise a child.
Exactly, because the child is not just you and I, it's a part of the whole community. How this child develops, what this child has to offer affects all of us.
Correct.
All of us. It's not just going to be, so we all need to chip in.
Now, I know that we have special ed teachers that will be at the preschool level.
Yes.
What type of support does your unit give specifically to our special ed teachers? I know we talk generally about teachers, but specifically to the special ed teachers.
Well, one thing we do, and I think I applaud the ministry for what they're doing now. They started a cohort for our teachers who are interested in furthering their degree in special education. So right now, there's a group of teachers that are on partial scholarship with the government at the Barry University that will be completing, hopefully in December, their master's degree in special education that will contribute to our preschool. We have a variety of them. We have those who are interested in the preschool. I think there was 2 or 3 of them that's interested in the preschool, and of course the other ones in junior and primary. So hopefully in December, we will be producing some more special education teachers. And there has been some talk with the ministry, with our university, about starting a special education program so that we can now produce more teachers.
More special ed teachers.
Yes, so the talk is there, and hopefully
it will become a reality.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And of course, this time always moves really quickly, but it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
It was a pleasure to be here.
Please remain with us. We'll be right back with our second guest. We'll be speaking to Mrs. Raquel Monroe, an education officer. Stay with us.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training in conjunction with this station.
Unity and accountability within our communities should not be the culture of the past, but they should guide how we live today. At the heart of our communities are children, the future pillars of our nation. Together, we need to protect our future by making sure our children attend school. Committed to protecting our future, the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training has established a toll-free hotline to provide a confidential and supportive channel for concerned citizens to report students who are not in attendance at school. Join us in weaving the fabric of a stronger community. Make a commitment to each child's success. Mark it or rock it. Make a complaint. Raise a concern by calling 42-CHILD. That's 422-4453 or 727-7081 in Grand Bahama. Remember, every child counts, and as keepers of our community, our children, our future is everyone's business.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training in conjunction with this station.
The early years are an important period of rapid growth and development. Children begin to discover and explore their world. Positive, rich experiences during this period help to develop strong minds and healthy bodies. The early years, building a strong foundation for life.
Welcome back to Ed Table Talk Unplugged. We are speaking with Mrs. Raquel Monroe about meeting the needs of our special needs students at the pre-primary level. Welcome, Mrs. Monroe.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I'm going to start with the first question, and I wanted to find out about the special programs that are available to our students in the public school system, students that have special needs.
Okay.
Can you share with our audience about that, please?
Okay, not a problem. Currently, we do have self-contained classrooms. That's one of them. That speaks to having between 12 and 15 students confined to a classroom that will have instruction from a special education teacher. We also have pull-out programs where the language and mathematics teachers can identify those students who will need assistance in those areas. And that top-off is also 12 to 15 students at a time.
12 to 15 students?
Yes, ma'am.
That's pretty good. It's a small class. And of course, I mean, there must be advantages to having a smaller class.
Definitely. We want to make sure that we provide those students with as much individual support as they possibly can. And so that one-on-one works tremendously with assisting them with dealing with any of those issues as relates to their learning difficulties.
Now, when it comes to special needs, what are the type of difficulties or disabilities that some of our preschoolers are presenting with?
Okay, so there are several, okay? And as you've said, they start from preschool, they start to exhibit those types of characteristics that specifically speak to global development delays, autism, learning disabilities, and Down syndrome, to name a few.
Now, I know you mentioned autism, and there seems to be this growing concern that autism is increasing among us preschoolers. Is this a reality? What really is going on there?
Well, Ms. Pratt, there is a reality to that. The CDC's, their recent data spoke to at least 1 in 36 persons being diagnosed on the spectrum. And those students that we place into our units and schools, we identify at least 8 out of 10 students that are also exhibiting autism or on the spectrum.
That's quite a bit.
It's a lot.
8
yes,
out of 10.
Yes.
I wasn't expecting that statistic.
Yes.
And apart from autism, what would you say is the next major concern for our preschoolers in terms of the challenges?
Okay, for most of them, they also have learning disabilities. They are not progressing at the level they're supposed to be progressing on. So they would have challenges as relates to reading and mathematics.
Oh, wow. And
yes.
Those are 2 core areas.
They are the core areas in all 4 disciplines.
Yeah, that must be mastered. So we have to get on top of that.
Yes.
You know, in terms of training, and professional development, okay, opportunities. What do we see going on? I know that it's there, and our previous guest spoke to that. But is there anything that you would like to add to that as well in terms of what you see going on with professional development and training?
Definitely. The Ministry of Education, we do hold sessions, professional development sessions for our teachers and aides. And we just came out with some exciting professional development sessions that focused on sensory rooms, social and emotional handicaps, autism, and also IEP development, and all of these areas are necessary in our special education classrooms because they're going to be faced with those types of challenges. So we need to remediate as soon as we possibly can. Additionally, teachers do also offer us some sessions that they would also like to see happen during the professional development days, and we try to accommodate them as best as possible.
And what has been more of the common request or popular request from the teachers?
Definitely as relates to sometimes behavioral issues, and that was my session this past February 21st and 22nd, and I focused on social and emotional handicaps.
Oh, now, I'm not familiar with that term, so I'm thinking our audience is not, social and emotional handicaps. Please elaborate.
Yes, that specifically deals with those students who have challenges socializing with other students. Okay. They can exhibit some behavioral issues that are not the norm. So we put in place certain things or strategies, interventions that can help those students in those two areas for teachers and for teachers' aides.
And if you can give maybe just a little nugget in terms of a strategy that parents or teachers can try for students who have that type of challenge.
Okay, the first thing I would suggest is making sure that you have a conversation with your students. Sometimes just having rules in place and making sure that those students are familiar with those rules and let them buy into it. Because once they create those rules with the teachers, they feel more inclined to adhere to those. So when consequences are given out, they're expecting it because they also they contributed to those. Let's say they have to clean up their classrooms, and that's one of the consequences. Okay, then they are more willing to say, okay, I contributed to making this rule as this is a consequence of my behavior, so I'm going to clean up the classroom if that's one.
That's wonderful. And I'm pleased to see that, like you said, the professional development obviously is going on so that even if our teachers are not trained as a special ed teacher, they have certain nuggets that they can put in place, certain strategies and certain pathways they can follow.
And also, if there are teachers or schools who would like to invite us in, we can also provide them with some sessions as well, some training.
And this also extends to our
generalist
schools?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Of course, because the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational
They're
Training,
always ready.
We're always ready for all schools.
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I do believe we're out of time in this second segment. That went by very quickly, Ms. Monroe.
Yes.
Thank you for being a part of the
Thank
show.
you for having me.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at our second break. Our final segment is next with Education Officer Mrs. Joanna Miller-Neely. Stay with us.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training in conjunction with this station.
Unity and accountability within our communities should not be the culture of the past, but they should guide how we live today. At the heart of our communities are our children, the future pillars of our nation. Together, we need to protect our future by making sure our children attend school. Committed to our future, the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training has established a toll-free hotline to provide a confidential and supportive channel for concerned citizens to report students who are not in attendance at school. Join us in weaving the fabric of a stronger community. Make a commitment to each child's success. Mark it or rock it. Make a complaint or raise a concern by calling 42-CHILD. That's 422-4453 or 727-7081 in Grand Bahama. Remember, every child counts, And as keepers of our community, our children, our future is everyone's business.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training in conjunction with this station.
All children under the age of 5 years old have access to high-quality care and education in a healthy and safe environment. Child care centers adhere to best practices which promote positive growth and development of children with professionally trained and effective staff and directors. Quality child care, building a strong foundation for life.
Welcome back to our final segment of Ed Table Talk Unplugged with Education Officer Mrs. Joanna Miller Neely. Mrs. Neely, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And we're going to continue our conversation about meeting the needs of our special needs preschoolers here in the Bahamas. So, Mrs. Miller, I want you to share with our listening audience exactly what is it that your unit does as it relates to special ed preschool children.
Okay, I'm a part of the early childhood section, preschool unit, and we aim to ensure that children between the ages of 3 and 5 have access to quality preschool education. And so if we are dealing with children of age 3 to 5, then we do come across children that fall into that category of special needs.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say is your greatest challenge in the unit as it relates to children who are special ed?
Okay, so one of the challenges that we have is you would find that because of the registration or the application process, many of our students come into the quote-unquote regular classroom without any evaluation. As a result, as they begin to interact with the other children or interact with the teacher, then there are some signs or some behaviors that are seen that are not aligned with the normal, quote unquote, normal preschooler. And so you may have a child that's presenting with social and language problems, not looking you face to face, or not having language or having very little language at all, cannot engage in conversation. And so as a result, you'd find our teachers saying, you know what, I'm not trained for this. And so definitely lack of training and also lack of classrooms. We don't have sufficient classrooms to accommodate all of the students that we're seeing. And so what we find is we now have to go into probably putting them into our public-private partnership program.
Okay, and the public-private partnership program, I like the term because it talks about collaborating with others.
Yes.
Can you talk a bit about that? I know that we have a program that assists persons who could not get a space in our public preschools, but could you share more about that, please?
Yes, so this program started in 2018, and it was to assist us in the unit to ensure that all of our students of the age that I spoke about, they have access to quality program. Of course, our schools, in the public school sector, we do not have sufficient classrooms to accommodate, and so we've started the public-private partnership initiative that will help us. So when we do not have sufficient seats in that program, then we would say, well, okay, we have a preschool that's in the vicinity where you live that we can assist you with paying the tuition, and so the government does that. The public-private partnership program also helps us to achieve the Universal Pre-Primary Initiative goals set by, well, actually the Sustainable Development Goals set by the UN to ensure that all of our children of 3 to 5 years old have access to quality education by the year 2030.
Excellent. So I know that with the this partnership with the private preschools, what happens is persons then would have assistance with their finances, parents, if you can't afford a private preschool. Maybe you could speak a little bit about that?
Definitely. And so what happens is the parent would go on to the onto the website and they would register. And so we
This is
find that Ministry of Education's website, and they would register or apply for their child to be in one of our preschools. However, if we do not have enough spaces, then what we do is we would say, well, Evangelistic, they have a preschool.
That's just
and
an
that
example.
Yes, just an example. They partner with us, and so the government has something in place where the government would pay $2,000 per year to assist the parents in paying the tuition of that child's school fee to ensure that they, like all of the other children, have that access to preschool education, to quality preschool education.
And that's very important because we know that if can get that foundation right, then it really sets them up well for grade 1 and grade 3 and grade 6 and so forth.
Exactly, because we have teachers that say, you know what, these children are coming to us and they are lacking certain skills. So if we can get them at the very foundation where they are enrolled in a quality program, where they learn the social skills, where they get that language development, where they get that cognitive development, social and emotional as well, because that's a big one. And so if they can go to school to grade 1 ready, then that definitely assists the grade 1 teacher.
And beyond.
And beyond.
Well, thank you so much. You've been very, very enlightening. And I do believe that our audience learned a whole lot, because I certainly did.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching Airtable Talk Unplugged. And I would like to thank all of our guests for sitting down with us today. And we want to thank you for listening in. Now, if you would like to receive updates on what is happening at the Education Ministry, please visit our website or other social media platforms. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Airtable Talk Unplugged. Until next time, on behalf of the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training, I am Denise Pratt.